Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome back to Nova Aetas Renaissance. This is video number 4. We are going over the 4 stretch goal heroes. Previous video, we went over all of the core bots. There's 4 of them, as well as we kind of looked through sort of how the cards interacted, how their character abilities worked, unlocked, and what lots of the tokens and abilities they might need are. So I'm not going to re-go through that for that. So if you want just a brief, if you hadn't watched that, go back, watch that so you can see the brief idea of how the cards work. We just want to be able to hop in and see what these 4 brand new characters do. So these are kind of a little bit more advanced classes. If we kind of talk the regular, like traditional RPG classes in the base set, we had the Rogue. We had the rogue type class, with the rogue/ranger class. We had the or the rogue class. We had the fighter. We had the black mage, and then we had kind of like the white mage. Our four main RPG classes. This is gonna give us combination classes that are kind of like in between each one of them, but they're their own unique classes. It's not they just took parts of each of them and mashed them together. And I do realize this is a loose idea because every character has 3 different classes they can go into, so it's not a direct thing, but you'll kind of see how they kind of mix between each one. Now, just before we hop into this, if you haven't watched the previous videos, in the first one we did go over just the overview of all the different components in the game. There's a lot in this big giant box. The second video we kind of went through the tutorial, the rules of sort of how the game is played. But then as every video picks up, we then, picking up extra rules along the way, because there are so many of them. And then, obviously, the last video went through the core heroes. So yeah, we're going to jump into it. So every character's going to have their 4 sheets, their basic class, and plus how to play is that. Their advanced classes, which is double-sided, and their skill sheet for that as well. Their miniature, their set of 9 equipment, so 3 for each class. And then they will have their Destiny cards as well, which have 6 of them, 2 for each different class. I will not be going through the Destiny classes because they're kind of like story spoilers for each character. If it's, like I've said in previous videos or other videos, if there's some of the stuff you'd like me to go through in a secondary video, it's just a full-on spoiler video, I could do that, but I don't really consider it part of the core box mechanics because I've heard people want to buy this, they want to know what figures and stuff they're getting, but they don't need to know all the spoilers for all the stories. There's nothing in there that's going to explain gameplay-wise. The last thing we're also going to go into this video, the last 2 things I should say, is we have some familiars, which are little add-on allies we can use, as well as companions, which are another set of allies we can use. So we'll go over those at the end of the video as well, which actually just help make the game more interesting. Alright, so let's go ahead and hop into our first character. Alright, our first character is Aetas. So if you recognize the robes and the colors, this is from Assassin's Creed specifically, which takes place in Renaissance era Italy and stuff. So it makes definitely sense to have them. I believe some of the earlier games did. I've not played them all, so I can't speak for everything. But yeah, so we get Aetas in here. You might be like, why didn't we get Enzo, who's like the more probably well-known of the group generally, because he actually appeared in Black Rose Wars, the original version. So they had him as actually not even a playable character, he's like a summonable character that come and summon, you have him assassinate people, and then you disappear. Kind of makes sense for an assassin in a magical world, I guess. But yeah, so we're getting Aetas in here. It's still fun, though. So here's his miniature. So he's got his big old giant sword, of course, all his cloaks and hoodies, little daggers everywhere to throw. Plus, he's got his arm blade. So he can pop that out and stab people without them catching him. Hide that back up in there. Do his quick assassinations. So he's going to be the assassin class. So like I was saying, they are kind of like mixtures between classes. So the assassin would be your generally your mix between your fighter and your rogue. So it kind of shares the stealthiness of a rogue, but it has more devastating attacks, kind of like, I would say, the fighter. Although, if it had to lean a direction, it would lean more towards even a stealthier rogue, because he was obviously what an assassin is. But then, yeah, it's where it's fun, because we get the extra classes, which I'll also update that as well. So yeah, he has pretty good. He has 3 physical attack, but he doesn't have really any psychic because he doesn't really do that. But he has good dexterity. He can have one of his 2 red skills, otherwise he's gonna have more movement with the green. So let's look at what his abilities do. So he's going to have in his red, he has Assassin Strike. Let me move that up a little bit. So pay 2. During this activation, the Hidden Blade inflicts 1 additional unblockable weapon. Hidden Blade will be one of his equipment, which we'll look at the end. Sudden Strike, +1 cost and upgrade. This attack gains critical, gain 1 dash. This movement does not cause reactionary attacks. So, yeah, between his 2 first attacks, do you want his Hidden Blade to be able to do extra damage, or do you want whatever attack he does to be able to let him get away, or potentially move to the next target if he's already defeated them? So very interesting. In blue, he has evasion. After you perform a defense test, you may reroll it. You must keep the new committed result. Just kind of show you has good agility to dodge around. Eye of the Eagle. Passive. Gain all keywords. Now, this one's pretty interesting and crazy at the same time. So what this does is, what are the keywords? The keywords are stuff like stealth, brutality, but there's other stuff like lockpicking, medicine. And what does that mean? Because they don't, in general, do anything on their own. So here's a list of the keywords. Diplomacy, survival, medical, mysticism, intimidate, stealth, lockpicking, search. So a lot of different stuff. But what they do is, like, let's say if you get to an action like, oh, there's a house and you have to get into the house. And they might give you 2 options to do, right? Could either be like, A, spend X amount of time just to physically attack the door, and then see if you can break it down. Or it might be like lockpicking. If you have anyone has a lockpicking skill, they could use that attack with the lockpicking, or whatever has a lockpicking skill, to try and pick the lock. And maybe it might be cheaper, easier. Maybe it might not up their Perillium or something like that. He can go ahead and use that. Same thing if there's like an action like, oh, if you have the search action, you get to roll 2 dice, or you have a higher success rate. Than if you don't. He's going to basically get that as well. So for him doing little tests, he's going to have a lot more advantage than some of the other characters because he can jump in and do anything. But that also being said, is that means that's taking up basically an ability that if he's not doing something or he's doing an action, if he's just generally attacking or moving around the board, he basically has 1 skill that's not doing anything. So it's kind of the trade-off there. Then he has Leap of Faith in his movement. It says jump to and climb to. You may drop down from any height level without suffering any damage. So this definitely goes in with the whole Assassin's Creed style gameplay. Where the guy will be like running up the side of buildings, flipping over stuff, diving off into the hay bales. All that fun stuff. As a reminder, jump says small by spending up to X time to move the available square within X space of itself in a straight line. The line square must be the same height level or a lower one starting square. A square is crossed by jumping knocking enemies with a tall skill or scenic elements. What it means is he can jump over enemies. He can jump from one rooftop to another if they happen to be close enough. He could potentially even jump over like hazards, like, oh, there's a water. He can jump over the water, or he can jump over the mud. So that kind of makes him so he can get around a little bit quicker. And then he has Climb to, which Climb just says, Mao may move across X different height levels. So he can climb up and down buildings up to height, which is our tallest building, without any extra stuff. So again, it's not going to be an attack ability, but it's going to let him get around the board really quick. He doesn't have to spend time moving around to the ladder of a building, then spending actions to climb up the ladder. He can just run right to the front of the building and go right up it. And then he has Stealth Movement. The sight value of enemies is like 2 lower against you, so basically he can't be seen. So he doesn't have movement in the sense of like he's dashing around the board, like running super fast, but he's going to be hard to hit with his evasion. He's going to be hard to see, which can make him even harder to hit. And then the fact he can jump and climb lets him get to other places or around where other guys can't get. And the idea is he wants to just come up and maybe assassinate, or he can like run into a building, steal something. Very cool. His ultimate is Resto Attack and Pace. It's +1 each time you use a Hidden Blade. And then he has 3 costs to spend it on your next attack. It's +2 to the cost, plus 2 rolling, and the cost becomes 0. So yeah, basically you can keep stealth attacking people. Then he has like essentially like an ultimate finisher. He's like, dude, you're done. I'm taking you out. Gains a bonus and it becomes less, so he doesn't have to even spend time to do it. So that's pretty fun. Another thing is, I guess, like, that requires Hidden Blade, his one attack requires Hidden Blade. So if some of the characters are going to get like that, where they're going to almost be required to keep their basic items with them. Or their starting items, I should say basic. Alright, for his upgrade, now we can upgrade him to a master. So this is kind of fun, because instead of changing into almost like a completely different type of class, where like, if you look at someone like Rebecca became either from a regular apprentice into like specialized necromancy or chronomancy, or VCO became a knight or it was a square, it was knight and something else, but it became more like specificized classes like that. Like, this actually, you can become a master, so basically you can just hone in on his assassin skills 100%. So he does the upgrade, now he gets 2 red instead, or he has the option of having up to 2 red. You still only have 5 things, so even though it has 6, he doesn't get 2 red abilities, but it gives him the option. He have 2 red, he could drop out that pink if he doesn't want it, or the blue if he doesn't want it. Cool, so what are his abilities for that? So if he jumps to a master, he has Rapid Striking Red. Requires Sudden Strike, Reaction 2. When you become the target of a physical attack of an enemy adjacent to you, before you suffer the attack, you may perform an attack targeting that enemy. So you can potentially try to take them out before they take you out. So you're like, oh, I saw him. Let me stab him first. That's cool. And then he gets the Sword of the Eagle, which is a sword he's carrying. Plus 2 cost and upgrade. You must choose an enemy adjacent to you as a target of this attack. Roll 1 additional die for each enemy adjacent to you. So this is kind of like, he's gotten surrounded, like, which happens. You get surrounded by a bunch of guys, and you just pull out the sword, and now he's all of a sudden going to be able to potentially do a lot more damage, because he's facing these odds. If you want different, purple, you can have purple, pink, whatever. Superior reflexes. Passive. When you perform a defense test and obtain 2 suns, you may discard any reaction token in your possession. There's no way his rapid attack trigger a lot faster. So when we perform a defense test. So basically if he does his rapid attack, right? Someone tries to attack him, he stabs them back, doesn't kill them. Now he performs a defense test. He gets 2 suns, he can take off that reaction token, so then at his turn, he can attack them again right away. He doesn't have to pay extra stuff. So that's pretty cool. Diversive maneuvers. Reaction 2, gain a shielded token. Again, if he defense, he can gain a shielded token, and then potentially if he rolls his defense test, he could get rid of them, have that ready to go right away, so he can keep himself protected. Rush. Pay 1, perform a movement test. Gain 1 dash for each sun obtained. You may use this skill, maximum skill, once per activation. Just to let him get across the field a little bit faster. And then Rush Murder. During your activation, if you perform an attack after you release 2 squares, roll 1 additional die for that attack. Yeah, so this build kind of wants him, it's not necessarily having him keep in the shadows as much, but it's focused on him killing people. He's able to step out of the shadows a little bit and be like, hey, I can be seen because I can handle you. But he's using the rush to get in quicker. But again, he keeps all his regular abilities, so he's still going to be able to do all this other stuff. So he still has lots of that stealth element. This is just upping his damage output. Instead of him doing like little jabs here and there, and now he's able to like swing and take out guys, or actually stand against them if they spot him. Then his special ability is All Is Fair. He has passive, +1 each time you use a Hidden Blade, so it still wants you to use that. And then if he spends 3 and 5 time, you may move up to 5 squares without causing reaction attacks, performing an attack against each enemy you become adjacent to during this movement. So if there's a bunch of enemies, I don't know how often you're going to have like 5 enemies next to each other, but he could potentially run by like 2 or 3 enemies attacking each one and still get out of their way. So that's kind of fun. You could run by /1/1, and then up on the other side or behind maybe who is an actual target, like take out the guards, and then get behind like the main target. So that could be a really powerful ability. The thing is, you gotta build up at least 3 hidden blades beforehand. Alright, then on his other one, so instead of focusing on his killing skills, he decides to teach people. So he becomes a mentor. So this is a fun idea as well. So instead of him like, I'm just going to become like super deadly, he's like, I'm going to train someone else to be super deadly. So it does have, it still has his 2 red, but now he has 2 pink instead of a green. So he's going to get some of his reactionary stuff instead of his movement. So he has Debilitating Strike. +1 upgrade, this attack gains stun, or critical, gets bleeding, and if you get the moon, it also gains stun. So that's kind of neat. Like, now if you run up and you stab a guy with your hidden blade, you could potentially also make them bleed and stun them so they can't move, and then they're going to take extra damage. Flank. When you perform an attack on enemy adjacent to another hero, roll 1 additional die. So what I like about this mentor one, because the other one, he kind of wants, he's fine going off by his own, or being kind of more like a little bit tanky style. Here, he wants to be like hanging out next to his teammates and actually helping them out. So instead of running off on your own doing stuff, he's gonna maybe slink in the shadows behind his team and then pop out and help them out. Yes, as long as you stick with somebody else. He's training the Creed. Reaction 2. When another hero within 3 spaces you defeats an enemy, that hero gains an advantage token and a lucky token. It's basically you saying, hey, I'm teaching you how to do better. Poison Mastery. So pay 3 and choose 1. Place a poison token on one of your weapons, or on a weapon of a hero adjacent to you, or discard a poison token from you or a weapon, or an ally next to you. So that's pretty fun. If you have to worry about poisoning, you can swap that in. And that might even depend on what map you're doing or who you're fighting, but that could definitely be helpful. The Master of Arms. So search passive. At the beginning of your activation, another hero within 3 spaces you gain an advantage token. So giving them extra bonuses so they can do stuff, you know, kind of like the Eye of the Eagle lets you see everything that's going on. This is also letting you, like, hey, coach guys from, like, a little distance. Now, I like to watch these are sometimes within 3 spaces, so you don't even have to be right on top of them. So, like, if you're, like, for Brutality and Poison Mastery definitely help to be next to your team, but then, like, on their turn, they can walk away, and if you haven't caught back up to them, you can give them a bonus burst, you know, and have them set up, where you, on your turn, you could go ahead and move. Oh, I move here, I get a quick attack, I have enough space here, I'm away from them, I can go ahead and give them a token or help them out. And then Acrobatic Combat. Pay 1, swap your mouse position with that of an enemy model within 1 space of you, does not cause reaction attack. So it kind of like flips over the guy, or like does like a quick judo throw type thing. Could be very helpful, like just to get an ally, get him away from one of your allies, or maybe you get in between them and an ally and put them within range. Or if they're blocking something, I mean, like the very first tutorial mission, right? There's a guy right in front of the door that you need to get into. So you could walk over to the door instead of trying to beat him, just throw him out of the way, and then now you can go ahead and enter the door. Yeah, so it's very cool. It's a very different way to play as the character. Alright, let's look at his equipment. So we have his starting equipment in green. And I always love the equipment in this game, because again, it's not basic equipment. It's pretty decent starting. So he has his sword. One-handed, costs 1/1 range, but he does this tackle, which means when he hits the guy, moves him back to space, and he follows him. So he gets a pretty good thrust with it. Then we have his Hidden Blade, which is just an item, so it's not even takes a hand up or anything, which makes sense. Once per activation, inflict 1 unblockable damage to an adjacent enemy, spending time based on the rank of the target enemy. So rank 1s take 1, rank 2s take 3, and then monsters or no rank take 3. Not much, but just be able to be standing next to someone and be like, dab, 1 additional damage every time isn't bad. And then, like we said, we had his very first upgrade, which is Assassin's Strike. Spend extra 2, you can do an additional. So by spending anywhere from 3 to 5. You can do 2 free damage. And I think that doesn't sound like much, but you know, some of these guys only have like 6 health. All you'd have to do is hit him with that once at the end of your turn, do a regular attack, do like 2 or 3 damage, and boom, you might take him out. Robe of the Creed. Spend 1, reduce your Prolium by 1, you use effect maximum 1 per turn. Just the idea is you can kind of fade back into not being the target. So he can run up and attack people, hit them. He's going to up his Prolium every time he does damage. But now you can spend this to then kind of try and quickly fade back away so they don't target you. Very cool. Alright, then if we upgrade into the Master, which is the blue, we are going to start with our first weapon, which is Sword of the Creed. 3 cost with 1. At the beginning of the mission, place an advantage token on this card. So just right off the bat, it gets an extra bonus for your first attack. Smoke Grenade. Spend 5. All enemies within 3 range, you gain a distracted token, then perform up to 3 dashes. This is kind of a fun. So it's kind of like this assassin throws a smoke bomb, and now he can dash away from everybody. Or potentially dash in and behind somebody else without taking reactions. And then his last one is the Yusuki. At the beginning of your activation, if there are no Astro tokens on this card, place 1. Just to let him basically have an Astro token during his turn so that he can spend it to like get the exact dice results that he might need. Which will help with your like different things. And then if we go for the red, the Mentor route, we're going to start with the symbol of the Creed. At the beginning of your activation, if there are no lucky tokens on this card, place 1. So it gives you some extra rerolls. Phantom Blade. 3 cost is 1 to 5. Pierce, reload 2, and bleed. So, yeah, reloading. So let's spend a little bit there to get that. Spend 2 to be able to reuse that. Makes sense, but you get to bleed a guy. And then we have the Pierce keyword, which says, damage played by this attack is unblockable. So, like, he has his dagger blade, he's hidden blade one-handed. If he's not near a guy, now he basically has a hidden blade essentially at a distance. This has to perform a test for it, but if he hits, it's 1 unblockable damage. If it crits, it's bleed, so it does basically 2 damage. You just can't use it consistently. And then his last one is the Pieces of Eden. Pay 5, activate another hero under your control. The activation token of the hero activated in this way does not advance on the Hologram. So that's a pretty crazy ability, right? So basically you can like have somebody else perform an extra healing attack or extra melee attack or whatever it needs to be. That could be pretty crazy. Just some interesting different stuff you could do with that. But that's neat. As a mentor, he's kind of like, hey, I need you to do this, and then they're going to do that for you on your turn. But you're spending your turn explaining them to what they need to be doing, which makes sense as a mentor. So that's pretty cool. Alright, that was our first hero. Let's hop into our second one. Before we move on to the next character, we forgot to look at Eltair's special for his mentor class. It gets +1 each time you use a hidden blade. It's nothing is real. Pay 3. Until the end of this activation, every time you use a hidden blade, you inflict 3 unblockable damage instead of 1. Interesting. So yeah, that could, and if you use his other upgrade, you could potentially do 4 damage every turn. So you could just jump in and stab some. So his other one, he basically was allowed to do like a big extra bonus attack, right? Yeah, attacking a bunch of guys. Here he's just going to be able to just run up and stealth kill one guy a lot easier. But that could be very helpful if the guys are kind of coming up on you as well. Alright. We forgot that. Had to add that back in there. Now to the next character. Alright, up next we have Gregorio. So he's got a Plague Doctor type look with a big giant scythe. So he is an alchemist, is our class for him. But his kind of like dual combination, if we want to go with that, would be he's basically like a combination between your black mage and your white mage. So he's going to be able to do a lot of damage or be able to do some healing with his various effects. So he'll crow up on the top of his scythe. He's got a sensor with some smoke in it, so you need a way to do that. So yeah, he's going to be an alchemist, so he's going to have some interesting things he can do. I'm going to show off one of his equipment cards right away because it has we'll look at it a little bit later, but he has a special one called Alchemic Exchange. So what he can do is he can spend reagents to do special abilities, and he starts with one of these. So he doesn't start with that. He gets that. He gets that in one of his later classes. Sorry, he doesn't start with it, but he does get it in one of his advanced classes. But yeah, it will make a difference when he gets that. So he doesn't have a cool ability there. Alright, so what does he have in here? So he has some interesting stats there, but he gets 2 pink is what he gets to go for. So he's not really the warrior, but he does start 2 options for blues as well. What do these all do for us? So he has Mo, Diplomacy. Roll 1 additional die for this attack. Just basically using a scythe, right? So he gets to like swing a little bit harder with it. Offensive Bastion. +1 upgrade. The attack inflicts at least 1 damage, gain a shielded token. So if he does damage, he can kind of use it to sort of like protect himself with it, with his scythe as well, I think is the idea. And then he has Studying the Stars. Passive. When you perform a defensive test against a physical attack, based on the symbols obtained, you gain the following tokens. Moon, you get a Cursed. Star, you get an Astral, or Sun, you get a Lucky. So 2 out of 3, you have a good chance of getting something, which isn't bad to have, like, you know, every time you have to take a defensive test. Watch for the Stars. Pay 1, perform 1 psychic test. For each star obtained, your hero, including you within 3 range, gains an Astro token. You can discard a reagent card from the loot to roll 2 additional dice. So you can potentially get hand out a lot of Astro tokens for him. Which again, just lets you then re-roll them, which might be nice for even using them on these, because then you can like spend it to get that specific one. Alchemy, which to me is big thing here, says pay 2, choose a hero including within 1 space, perform a psychic test. For each success, that hero discards 1 damage. You may discard 1 Astro token to roll an additional die. So he can use Watch for the Stars to get Astro tokens, and then now he can spend them on his Alchemy to heal guys better. And then Jinx Step. When an enemy within 3 spaces suffers at least 1 damage, gain 1 dash. You can use that movement exclusively to approach the enemy. So if a guy takes any damage, whether you inflicted it or somebody else inflicted it or whatever, he can try and get closer to like a finishing job. So you kind of see as a little bit of a mix between he's going to be able to kind of heal guys, and then he also has a little bit of offensive stuff. But we haven't really gotten into like his full white and black mage stuff yet. His special is Negrito. It says get +1 each time using Alchemic Exchange. So yeah, we looked at that card. So it's still let him use reagents to get special effects. You can pay 6 and then 2 time. Up to 3 enemies in 4 spaces gain a poison token. So very interesting. Then if we look at his 2 sides, so look at his black mage side, which is the Scourge, is where he's going to do some damage. Now you notice he's going to be able to get 2 blue instead, or 2 red, so he's going for a little bit more damaging side or defensive side. And then he's going to have, for his abilities, Pestilential Strike. Pay 1 and upgrade, roll an additional die for this attack, it gains Distracted. Yeah, I think if someone smacked me with a scythe, I would probably be distracted as well. Explosive Material. Passive. The Firecracker effect on the Alchemy Exchange card gains Burn. So he's going to be able to increase some of his exchange abilities as well. Fear. Pay 1. Choosing enemy within 3 spaces of you that enemy gains a Distracted token. If they already have a Distracted token, thanks to our top ability, they must perform 3 dashes to go far away from you as possible. So it's either going to kind of like, what's that guy doing? And it's like, holy crap, this guy scares me, and he's going to run away. Which should be very helpful if, like, for missions where you're trying to get to a certain area, or if you plan it right and you get it on the left side, you might be able to push them right toward your teammates. He has Sting to Stone. Pay 1 to gain a lucky token, or pay 2 to gain a lucky and an advantage token. Coupe de Grace. has Jinx Step. It says Reaction 2. When an enemy within 2 spaces suffers at least 1 damage, you may perform an attack against them without spending time. Nice. So you have one where you're going to be able to get closer to them, and then you have another one where you're going to be able to perform an attack against them. And then Steps of Pain. When a hero suffers at least 1 damage, gain 1 dash, use movement exclusively to get closer to the hero. So the Jinx Step lets you get closer to enemies so you can finish them off. And then this one actually lets you get closer to a hero so you can potentially heal them or take them out. So even though it's kind of a little bit of the Black Mage, he wants to do a little bit more damage with some of his stuff. It's not even like straight up like just damage. It's kind of like scare tactics. He wants to like manipulate the field a little bit better. But yeah, so he has a cool idea. He can still do a little bit of healing. So his special is Rubido. Has +1 each time using Alchemy Exchange. Pay 3 and -2. Each hero on the battlefield discards all their negative stats tokens. You may assign the negative stat tokens thus discarded by dividing amongst the enemies on the battlefield. So if you can somehow hang out a bunch of, or your team's getting suffer with a bunch of negative stats effects, he can come through and be like, boom, we're all healed, but now they're all poisoned, or distracted, or burnt, or whatever. And that can be pretty crazy, because usually for lots of the heroes, you have to like roll to get rid of some of that stuff, or you have to wait to take an action before it gets rid of it, and you might just not take them actions. Alright, then on his other side, he becomes a Churigan, which is basically a healer. It's actually one of the places you can go to is the Churigan on the map. So now he gains 2 blue and he has 2 pinks. So he's going to work more on that pink side. Now there's a total of 5 on there. But so if you go this route, he still only has the 1 red. So it's only red he's going to be able to use. But he has 2 different greens to choose from. So we jump onto this side. He has Unsettling Presence. Passive, the rank 1 and 2 enemies spend 1 additional to enter a square adjacent to you. So kind of like that fear, they don't want to get near him. He's kind of a scary man. And he has Sharp Mind. For each negative stats token you own, each time you're using an effect, it allows you to discard 1 damage roll an additional die. So if he takes negative stats effects onto himself, he can use that in a way to heal better. Bloodletting. Discard a newly gained stats token. You may choose an enemy adjacent. You choose an enemy gains the token you just discarded. So again, if you can get negative tokens on him, you can pass them to enemies. The Sulk of Life. Pay 2, another hero within 3 spaces gains an advantage token. Or pay 3, another hero within 3 spaces gains an advantage token, then place another one on their weapons. So hanging out basically things to help everyone out. Regenerative Materials. Pay 1, upgrade. Roll 1 additional die when using the Soothing Cloud effect on the Alchemaic Exchange card. And then Rescue again, which has Diplomacy. Reaction 1. For each damage suffered by a hero within 3 spaces, gain a dash. Use that exclusive to approach the hero. So that's the other one had that too, but this one also has, after you perform this dash, you find yourself engaged, and here you can discard 1 of their negative stats attacks and gain the same one. So basically, he can run up to his teammates, take his negative stats tokens off of them, which then he can also use for bloodletting, to give to somebody else, or he can use for Sharp Mind to then now heal them even better. Hey, you have a poison counter. I'll take the poison onto me. Let me then also have potentially heal you more. And then if I can get to an enemy, or the enemy's still next to us, right? Because they're adjacent to us when they attack, or if I can move, I can always give it to them as well. It's pretty fun. His ultimate is Soothing Mist. 1 for each time a hero discards a negative stats token. It doesn't matter who it is, as long as they discard it. Pay 4 and 3 times. Use the Soothing Card effect on your Alchemy Exchange card on each hero, including you, without discarding reagent cards. Roll the individual dice. So it's going to let you do a giant healing effect without having to discard for it. So he's a very interesting character, because again, they didn't want to just make a healers, where they just stand back and all they do is heal or cast, but defense buffs and stuff like that. He has stuff where he can come in and do damage and interact with interact with everybody and still gets to move around the game. He's not just sitting in one spot waiting for people to take damage. And the same thing with the other side. Like, he's not just standing back there, like, casting giant spells or whatever. He's actually getting to manipulate the field a little bit. So very, very interesting. Alright, his special stuff. So first of all, let's look at his Alchemy's Exchange card. Since this has some of his abilities. It says Firecracker. Discard the 2 different types of reagents. Uses attack. Does 2 at 4. Cost 2 and does range 2 to 4. So it just gives him an extra attack if he needs it. And if you add that one upgrade, it can also add Burn. Purifying Breath. Discard 2 reagents from the loot. To use this effect. Pay 1. Choose a hero within 3 space, including you. Roll 1 die for each negative status effect token owned by the target. For each one, discard the negative status effect. Just a way to, like, heal yourselves. On the other side, is Soothing Cloud. Discard those 2. Pay 1 to choose a hero within 3, including yourself. Roll 2 dice. For each success, the target discards 1 health. So basically a way to heal everybody. And then Vapors of Vigor Potion. Pay 1 once per activation. And discard the 2 reagents from the loot, then draw 3 agent cards of your choice and add them to your loot without revealing them. So this could be helpful if you maybe need to get more of a specific kind. You know, you just need to find something else. Could be definitely helpful there. Alright, his starting equipment, he's going to start with his Scythe, of course. Does range 1 to 2 for a melee. His Alchemical Sensor. When enemy within range of 2 is defeated, add a reagent card of your choice from the loot without revealing it. So this is going to help him be able to spend more, because every time he defeats a guy within near him, or anyone is defeated, he also, as long as he kind of sticks with his team, right, and he's helping defeat guys, he'll gain extra reagents to spend. And then the Alchemic Tools. You may use the effects of the Alchemic Exchange card to discard the loot reagents indicated on the effect. Cards discarded may be shuffled back in their respective decks. Alright, then if we upgrade to the Scourge, which is the blue one, he gains Lymphatic Mask. When you perform a movement action, you may discard a status token of your possession. Each discard token lowers the cost of movement action by 1, so you can spend tokens to move. His Mesiatic Armor. Attacks by an enemy adjacent to you. The target you cost them 1 additional time. So he's going to make him harder to hit. Because I fear and all that. So he's going to kind of be a little interesting character. And then Potions Bag. Spend 1 less time up to a minimum of 0 to use potions and ointments of the type equipment. So yeah, you can spend potions a lot more. Which is really neat. Although, like, by this time, hopefully you've collected some potions. Because beginning class, you wouldn't have any. Alright, then if we go to his Church inside, he has Doctor's Clothes. Resistance 1, up to 3 times, and you may gain a status token and place it on this card. The effects of the status token on this card do not apply, and they cannot be removed normally. So what this means is you can basically store them on there, and if he has something that says, hey, I can discard a status token, or I can do something with it, he has them on here to spend them when he needs them. Or if it's just, hey, if I can do stuff for every token I have, he can put up to 3 tokens on himself, and then now spend them. So, like, we want to use Sharp Mind. Each negative status attack he can put up to 3, and then every time he does a healing effect, he can roll 3 additional dice. Yeah, just doing stuff like that. So yeah, it basically just makes him a little bit more interesting. Experimental Serum. Once per mission after your tail, you immediately discard 1 health. So a quick revive, which is always fun. And then Doctor's Mask. Pay 2 to discard status token from one of your equipment cards. So this is a way for you to get rid of them in case you don't want them anymore for whatever reason. Yeah, just hold them on there and then you can use them to get rid of them. Otherwise, if they're on there, I think they're probably just on there. Yes, that's pretty cool. So that's a very interesting character. Alright, let's hop into our third character. Alright, our third character is Fatima. So if we have a crossover between her, she would probably be like our rogue character, plus I would say our black mage. Just more in the fact of not directly in a sense that she's casting like a bunch of negative spells. But because she's a ranged character, they also kind of has like that little bit of stealthy aspect. Whereas like the assassin was more melee ranged or melee stealth. Sorry. But yeah, Phagma, she starts off as a vagabond, but she does have her bow. She also basically call her the ranger class as well, but she does have magic, which we'll get into. Which is why I kind of gave her the black mage type thing. I love the arrows there. Plus, hey, more female characters is always good. Plus, we have, a race. We have she looks to be a darker sting lady. I don't know exactly where that would be from. In Ailey, it could be down. Could be Spanish, could be she could have came from a different continent. I don't know for sure. I don't know her background. That's why I have to read her destiny cards, right? That we're not spoiling in this video. Yeah, just more of a variety of the characters is always fun. Alright, so she has a vagabond. She gets more attack in red than everything else. Let's go ahead and look at. And you see her different abilities. She becomes a scout, which is basically like a ranger. Or she become a bard. So that's kind of where we get our magic from. Yeah, again, it's not maybe necessarily black magic like it's dealing a ton of damage, but it's more like ranged magic that does stuff. Alright, so she starts with Spartan Kick. Pay 1, choose an enemy case to do that. Enemy performs a forced movement in the direction of your choice. So she has Spartan Kick. She's probably from Sparta, which is Greece, so she might be Greco-Roman, maybe? Not for sure. Yeah, it's kind of just fun though. She's a ranged character, right? She wants to shoot her bow and arrow. Some guy gets here, she can just kick them the heck away from them. She means then they now have to spend at least 1 point moving back towards her, which could offset what ability they could use. Rain of Arrows. Pay 1 upgrade. This attack gains a burst area. For each sun obtained, inflict 1 damage to enemies in an area of effect other than the target. The damage based off the successes obtained. So burst area is a square, so it's gonna regular damage to the main guy, and then everyone else can potentially do an extra 1 damage for every one you roll, and you could roll 3 or 4, and maybe do a bunch of damage. Swift reflexes. Each time you assign a fate token to another hero, gain a shielded token. What are fate tokens, you may ask? They are a special thing that she has. And they're in here. So she has special fate tokens. So at the beginning of the mission, place the 3 fate tokens. So we'll look at these little circles here. So we get little loots, kind of like her bard loot. It says on her old equipment card. During her activation, she may spend 2 time to give a hero within 4 spaces one of the fate tokens. For a test, the hero may discard a fate token and have to add fate dice to the roll. If fate discards random should be placed on the other card, so it goes back on her item. If there are no fate tokens on the card, it cannot be used until there's 1 fate token as the other. So she may only have 1 fate token at a time. So she can hand out these fate tokens by playing a song, basically. What do the fate dice do? These unique dice have sized better results than regular Nova Aetas die, but should be treated exactly the same as all other dice from applying results. The exception of size showing the note icon does not provide any results to the test of the hero use of fate dice. It's considered a fail to success, although it could trigger some of Phagma's skills. So then she gets these extra 3 dice, 1 for each one, which are black instead of white. And then they're going to actually have better results. So we have 2 8s on there. We have a 7, a 5, a 6, and a 4. So there's no 1 or 2. Or 3. So they got rid of the 1, 2, and 3 out of there, so your low results. But we do have 2 misses on there. So she could potentially get 2 misses which don't even have an icon. But our lowest roll result is always going to be at least a 4. So if you have 4 or less, or 4 or higher you have to get, or even 5 or higher. 5 or higher you have 50%, over a 50% chance of getting it, right? So that's pretty darn good odds to always roll that. Yeah, and you have a lot more chance of getting 8. So she can hand those out. So whenever you sign with a fate token, she gains a shielded token. So having her spend them really helps her out as well. Take aim. Pay 2, gain advantage token. Pay 3, gain advantage token, and place another one on your weapon. So you basically make her do extra damage, or potentially more damage. Rush Shot, passive, each of your attacks gains crit, gain a dash. So this is kind of fun because, again, if you're doing archery, shoot a guy, and now again you can move back away from them or move closer maybe to the next target. And then Climb, pay 1, gain 1 Climb, build into your activation. So I do find this is like an interesting idea because we had like Altair we saw earlier who just literally had ability that just gave him Jump 2 and Climb 2 for free. And then hers, she has to spend a point to gain Climb 1, which isn't as good. So it's kind of neat because it shows that like you can have similar abilities between characters, but they don't need to be the exact copies. It's not, oh, this is the jump ability, this is the climb ability, everyone just gets the exact same thing. You can have them get different things to show off their different skills and abilities, which I find is really cool. Her special is Arrow of Destiny, passive +1. Each time you inflict 1 damage to an enemy that is not adjacent to the physical attack. So more or less shooting one of your bows. It doesn't specify because then you can upgrade to different bows. Pay 4 and being a -1 time upgrade. Perform this attack twice on the same target, rolling 3 dice of fate instead of using characteristics added by the attack, and ignoring bonus characteristics provided by the attack. So you only get to use 3 dice instead of how many you might normally get a roll, which could be more or less, depending on what you're using. But you get a double attack, which is pretty nice. Yeah, so it's definitely not a bad idea to have either. Alright, so if we look at her Scout class, if we want to kind of go more towards the Ranger abilities, I only think they don't call it a Ranger because lots of times I think when they think Ranger, it happens to be, I think a Ranger is kind of like, I guess in my opinion, is kind of the combination between her 2 classes. A Scout, which would be a guy that kind of sneaks around the woods and just use their bow and arrow and stuff, and the Druid class, because I think the Rangers usually have like Druidic abilities, like maybe not as powerful as a full-on Druid, which is her other class, but they'll have like, be able to speak to nature and track animals and stuff a little bit better. Yeah, so here she gains more attack, gains 2 attack, but you have 4 options, but she also gains another pink on there she can potentially get as well. So what does this class do for her? She has Spectral Shot. Pay 1, upgrade this attack, gains Sniper. So now she can shoot through obstacles. Unpredictable attack. Each time another hero obtains a note on the die of fate, inflict 1 unblockable damage to an enemy within 4 of you. So that's kind of neat, because you could like place her somewhere else, and if enemies are getting close to you, everyone else is using these dice, so you can potentially do some more damage. Goal et Des. Every time you perform a defense attack, a test against a physical attack, you can lose 1 sun. Perform an attack against an adjacent enemy using only your hand value. So not super strong, not as good as some of the other reaction attacks, but the fact that she can then turn around and at least hit back with someone makes her not as much like a glass cannon, like, right, where she's not going to sit back and only be able to arch her if they get in her range, also if she's in trouble. Second Chance. Each time another hero obtains a note, a die of fate, you and that hero gain a lucky token. So both that and the unpredictable attack really set up like why you want to be spending them 2 points hanging out fate dice as much as possible, right? She might, and hopefully because you're range, you don't have to move a bunch. You can just fire, fate token, fire, fate token, fire, fate token. Hopefully you can keep doing that. Even maybe like your first turn before you're even near guys, just spend spend 2 of your actions just hanging out 2 of them fate tokens right away. It won't help her for this, but even later, when you start having that, might be your first turn, might be a good idea. Field Medicine. Pay 2, perform a test. For each 2 successes okay, you may discard 1 damage or 1 negative token. So she can at least heal herself. So again, if she's away from the rest of the team as a ranged character, this is nice because then she doesn't have to, the mage doesn't have to always run over and try and heal her, or whoever. And we have Lightning, reaction 2. When an enemy becomes adjacent to you, gain 1 dash, this movement does not cause reaction. So yeah, just be able to get that distance again so you can shoot them. Her special is Mors Tua Vika Mea. Each time a hero obtains a musical note, which is not good. It's not going to happen often. It's a 2 of 8 chance, but if it happens, you spend 3 of them. Pay 1 to upgrade. Perform this attack with your weapon, adding 3 dice of fate for each music note obtained. Gained 2 successes. So here, then that doesn't actually become weak for her to use them. And she has to add them to the attack, not just use them as the attack. So it's pretty powerful. But again, you might think, oh, you're not going to get these too often. Hopefully you don't, because they're misses for your other teammates. But the fact is, if you can just sit there and keep giving them extra dice all the time, that's not a bad thing either. Extra chances for stuff. Alright, then on her other side, she can jump into the Bard class. So here she gains more blue than red. She also has a special charge counter down here, which she's going to get to use. Alright, so the charge thing is going to be fate points. So now she's Bardic. You may equip spells of the Bardic school. Each time you use a Bardic spell, you may spend any number of energy fate points here to increase the success of the test by the same number as spent. She basically spent her points to increase her successes. Now, we're not going to shop into the Bard spells in this video. Check out the next one when we go over all the equipment. And they'll be in there because they're part of the equipment. Because other characters can potentially use them as well. They're not exclusive, not wholly exclusive to one character. Compelling Dance, Survival, pay 1. For the rest of this activation, each time using an attack, spend 1 time less to use it. Nice. So spend some time and then make this up a little bit cheaper. Dodge. Each time you assign a fate token to another hero, gain a shielded token. When you discard a shielded token, gain 1 dash. Well, that's nice. So then if you take a hit, you can get away as well. Bard's Song. Pay 2 to perform a psychic test. For each success, you may assign a distracted token to an enemy within 3 range. Gain 1 fate point for each distracted token assigned this way. So that's a great way to be able to earn some extra points there to spend while distracting enemies. Inspiration. Pay 1. Each hero within 6 of you discards a fate token. If they do, gain a blessed token, and then you gain 1 point. So this will be interesting. Do they want to play around with the fate dice, or do you just want to give them a blessed token, which ups their stats anyhow? Yeah, it says blessed stats. Hero has this token make discard for success. If they do, it decreases it by 1. So do you want better odds, or do you want to have 1 less thing you have to hit? It might depend on the number. If you have a high number, you have to hit like a 7 or an 8. You might want to have the extra guy that has the better numbers. But if you need to hit 4 successes at 4, you might want to have it drop down to 3. It might just be easier. It's kind of a neat idea. And then we have pay 1, guidance, pay 1, choose another hero. That hero gains 1 dash to perform immediately. You may use this skill maximum once per activation. Just kind of letting them know, like, hey, this is what's up. And then the last one there is Dance with Death. Pay 1, choose a model against you. Swap your model's position with the chosen model. Chosen model is an enemy that gains stun token. Movement does not cause reaction attack, and you use skill once per maximum phase. So again, if we're kind of going back to, like, comparing her to Altair and his assassin stuff, like, he had the ability to let him swap spaces too, but that's all he could do. Whereas her, she gets to choose, I think, again, she might have to pay for it, he might not have, but, she gets to choose an enemy, she can stun it, or she can choose an ally, so she'll flop behind another ally, and that can help her out as well. Her special ability is Heroic Liquidity. Each time you assign a fate token, so this one just does the fate token in general. So you can actually beef this one up fairly quick. You can, get 2 every turn if you have 5 points to spend. Not that you might want to do that constantly, but for pay 6 and lose 5 times. Choose another hero in your line of sight. That hero may discard all negative status tokens and immediately perform this attack. So 0 cost, but 1 damage. Nice, so just, instead of giving them extra dice, you're just giving them a free extra attack. Which might be even better. Like, hey, they didn't quite finish that guy off. Here, I'm going to spend all my time to, like, sing a little song that boosts up you to give you an additional attack. Awesome, so that's pretty cool. Alright, now let's look at her equipment. She's going to start with the short bow. 3 cost, but range 1 to 6 if she has lethal if you get a star. If you target an enemy within 1 space, this attack gains weak, so it only does 1 damage. Makes sense. If you can't pull back your bow enough or get enough distance on it, it's not going to really hurt him as much. Then she has her Og, which lets her assign her fate tokens. Pay 1 to assign a fate token to another hero who has none. Discard a fate token, place it on the card. So this says 1. I thought the book said 2. Oh, wait. And you spend 2 to give another hero within 1 space a fate token on the Og card. This says pay 1, assign a fate token to another hero who has none. Interesting. So I wonder which is correct, because this is actually a lot better. Just paying 1 to assign a token to anybody is better than paying 2 to only a guy within 4 spaces. I'll have to check the FAQ to see which one's right, but Leather Bodis, Resistance 1. She ignores some damage, which is always good. Alright, so for her Scout class, which is the blue one, she's going to start with a longbow. She's a little bit better bow. Because I think the difference was just the line of sight there. Perception ability, or the dexterity roll for it. Gets a +1. Otherwise, it does the same thing. Columbus Spyglass. If you move 2 or fewer squares at the end of your activation, you may place an advantage token on a weapon you have equipped. So as long as she's not moving around, she can kind of use the time to spy out where enemies are and gain advantage. And then she has Camouflage Robe, Resistance 1. Consider your problem lowered by 1. After performing a defensive test, you can reroll. You have to keep the new result. So much better armor. And then she upgrades to the Bard. She has to start with Ancestral Strings. Every time a hero uses a Die of Fate, gain 1 Fate token. Musical Score. You can equip spells of any school. If the sacred attack is successful, the spell is not from a Bard school, you gain a stunned token. So that's pretty cool, because like we just said, not everyone, not just are always subject to one class. So the fact that she has access to every spell is really cool. Then also the fact is, that means if they add more characters with more spells, this just gets even better, right? But you don't have to worry about getting the stunned token for doing stuff that's not your normal forte. And then she can get the Hunting Bow, which has a 1 to 5, a little bit less radius, but it's lethal. And a little less range, I guess. Not radius, range. But it does have that +1. But it also gains weak as well. Alright, so that was our third character. Let's hop into our final main hero. Alright, so we have Orgrix. Aerodrix. So he is a druid. So yeah, we go back to our combinations of classes. So we've had an assassin, which is our rogue fighter. We had our alchemist class, which was our black-white mages combined, and then we had our scout vagabond class, ranger bard, which is our black mage type thing with some castings and spells, kind of, and sorry, it's like almost like a white mage thing. So now we have the other mage. So he's actually gonna be able to cast more kind of damaging different spells. So he's almost more like kind of like the black mage scout. So the only class we don't really have mixed together is we don't have stuff with the fighter, doesn't really cross over with the mages at all. But there's only so many different classes you can have right now. But yeah, so here's his. So he's also going to have his little like summoning circle on the bottom. He's also going to have an additional little ally. He has our first familiar of the game. I did mention we'll go over other familiars later. After him. The other ones can be used by anybody. This one's exclusive to him. And this is, I always forget how to say his name. Arasleco. So yeah, he has a special mechanics he can use, and we'll look at those a little bit later, but what's neat is they kind of combine to the bases like that, and they made just neat features so that way you know he's attached to him, but then he can also go off and do his own stuff, and we'll see how he kind of affects with that. Alright, so here's this druid stuff. So he turns into an animalist or a geomancer. So his geomancer gives him some various new magic spells. Animalist gives him some more other animal skills as well. Kind of comes more melee. kind of thing. You kind of get like some of the different stuff there. Good combination of stuff. But right after that, he can use one of it. He has 2 of his reg attacks, so he's going to be able to do a little bit more damage. So let's see what he does for that. He has Transmutation. Can equip spells from the Transmutation School. So you have a new spell school. Mighty Strike, Feral. Which is a new keyword we haven't seen before. +1 upgrade. For each sun you may keep. For each sun you may reroll that has not produced a success, you may keep the new result. So just a chance to do potentially more damage. Aid, +1 upgrade. If Aetas select goes on the same square as you, roll an additional dice. So if your familiar sticks with you, get an extra die roll, which isn't bad. Petrified. Reaction 2, when you face a defensive test against a physical attack, roll an additional die. So lots of extra success chances or ability to stay alive. Stardust. Passive, each time your spell gains. Each of your spells gains crit. Aetas gains 2 dashes. So it's going to let him move around the field a little bit quicker. Life-O. Pay 2, perform a psychic test. Choose a KO'd hero adjacent to Aetas. The hero discards 1 damage for each success obtained. So this is kind of neat with him. So you can kind of either use the owl to move around and do whatever he needs to do with his special ability, which we'll see in a minute when we look at his card, or you can use him to go around potentially healing KO'd characters. Now, it's one of those things, it's kind of like a good-bad thing, because it's like, you hopefully don't KO, enough guys aren't getting KO'd that you have to use that too often. So lots of the time it might just sit around, but when you need it, it's going to be really great. And then the Steps of Gaia. Pay 2, if Aetas is in the available square within 4 spaces you are on the same height as you, swap position in the model with yours. So yeah, you can send him out using Stardust or other effects. And then now you can swap spots with him, which is really cool. So you can get across the map a little bit quicker if you need to. His ultimate ability is Wind Force. Pay 1 or gain 1 for each time Aetas moves at least 1 square. So pay 3. Each hero not KO'd gains 2 dashes. His movement does not cause reaction attacks. So yeah, lots of his stuff here is going to let his owl move around and do stuff and kind of rack with you. But then he's going to be able to, potentially move all your characters around, kind of like battlefield advantage. And then his red just lets you do extra damage. So very cool. So if we jump into his first class, which is the Animalist, so this is where it gets to control animals in kind of the nature side of the druid. Druids usually like control nature, vines, things like that. Transmutation lets him kind of maybe like turn one thing into another thing, kind of like can kind of gain like bark skin type of stuff. But yeah, here's gonna be able to do more stuff with his owl. So he's gonna gain more red. He has 3 options there. 5 options for his 2 spots. And the card got stuck. Alright, so what does he do as an Animalist? Equip spells from the Animalist school. So now you can have both Transmutation and Animalism. He has Peck, Mighty Strike. Pay 2 upgrade. Each sun you may reroll a dice not produce success. You may keep the result. Attack gains bleeding. And then Nosedive. You can use this attack only if Aetas is within 4 spaces of you. Place your model adjacent to an enemy in the same space as Aetas, then perform this attack against them and gain a stunned token. So basically, like, drop you on them for a full turn. And then you gain a stun token as well. So he's picking you up and he's dropping you on top of them. It's a high dive attack. Ancient Strength. Feral and passive. Each of your spells gains crit. Place a lucky token on one of your spells, so you can re-roll them. For Vigor. Reaction 2. When you perform a defense test against a physical attack, you can re-roll up to 2 dice that have not produced successes. You must keep the new result. So there's lots of stuff, like he has lots of chance for doing what he needs to do. Bonds with Nature. Discard 1 time. Or pay 1 time to discard a negative status token in your possession. And then Animal Step. Feral passive. The first movement of your activation costs 1 less. So it just lets him move a little bit quicker. His big special effect, though, is Owl Bear. This is one of the biggest ones we've seen. So Pay 1 each time you inflict at least 1 damage, or you get 1 point. Spend 0 time. Remove El from the battlefield. You become an owl bear, which is a body of a bear with a head of an owl. Lots of feathers and stuff. As long as you're in the owl bear, you are considered your attack, your physical and psychic values are increased by 1. You can only use equipment, effects, and skills with the feral trait, and your attacks gain stun. So that's what the feral means on them. So like you can no longer use nosedive anymore, but he can use all the rest of these. Now if we jump back to his first sheet, so now he can still use his mighty strike, and he can use petrified because that's feral on it. But he loses the ability to use the other rest of his abilities. And that depends on his weapons, because he turns into a giant owl bear. Which there's no tokens or anything for that. I kind of wish they at least give him like a transmutation token underneath him. But you can always use one of the other ones, like the undead one or the risen one or something like that, or the sheep one, just as a marker so you know that he's transformed, if you'd like. At the end of your activation, you have to choose whether to spend 2 of your points, otherwise you can cease to be an owlbear. When you cease to be an owlbear, place the air struggle model in your space. So it's kind of neat, is you can use this for free. On your turn, you gain all these bonuses. Then you can choose to spend points to keep that going. So you don't have to ever spend any points, you just activate it for 1 turn at a time, which is pretty crazy. Alright. And then his last side, if you want to instead go with animals, you can go become a geomancer, which now he gains more greens and more pinks. And the geomancer has some really interesting stuff with it. So you can use a geomancy school. So you have a 3rd magic school we can use. So geomatic familiar. Pay 1 to remove a geode. Choose an enemy within 3 spaces to remove the geode and roll 1 die. If you obtain a success, the chosen enemy suffers 1 damage unblockable. So what are geodes? They're a special new little thing he gets to do. So we get these little geode tokens. So we'll have 3 of those. 1 with each different color, as well as 1 with each different symbol on there that we use. Oh, that's not good. I dropped that on the floor somewhere. Geomancer is a token. At the beginning of the mission, when Aerograx has a Geomatic die equipped, it's a special item. It's the Geomatic die. The hero models which placed on the battlefield. After controlling player places his token in 3 spaces of where his model is. A geode does not occupy a squares in, but each square can contain 1 geode. When he uses a spell, he may choose his location, or alternatively may choose a location of a geode token as a starting point of these effects of the spell. If his model were in the selected geode token square established line of sight, some effects allow him to remove and replace geode tokens. When a geode token is removed from the battlefield, place it next to a sheet. At the end of his activation, controller player must place all the tokens back in the battlefield. So what it lets him do is he places all these tokens on the battlefield, and then whenever he casts a spell, whether it's a geomancy spell or if he's casting his original spell, it's not animalist, his druid spells, he can basically treat those as if they're himself. So it gives him better range for all his spells. Lots of the geomancy spells utilize removing the geodes to do special effects, but at the end of your turn you can replace them, which is kind of nice because if you drop them all right at the beginning of the map, and then like 2 turns later you've moved across the map, it would suck to have them still be there or have to spend brand new abilities to, I mean, if they're there, they're there, but you can then replace them all. To have them move closer to where you are. So there's Soil Shield, passive. When you remove a geode from the battlefield, hero adjacent to it gains a shielded token. So yeah, placing these next to your allies could be very helpful. And then up the top one again, you can remove them to deal damage to opponents and then replace them later. Power of the Earth. After performing any test, you may remove a single geode to reroll 1 die. You may thus keep the new result. Reading the Stars, remove a geode. If you do, gain an Astro token. Geomatic ley lines, pay 2. If there are fewer than 3 geodes on the battlefield, place a geode within 3 spaces on the same height level as you. So I'll let you just spend time to place those tokens again. And Soothing Mud. Pay 2, perform 1 dash towards a hero. If you become adjacent to that hero, gain advantage token and perform to 1 dash. So very cool. So a lot of these remove the Geo tokens, but guys, I said the Geomancy spells, which are in the next video, where we go over all the equipment, also remove Geo tokens. So things you only have 3 of them. They do come back each turn, but every time you use one from his skill card means now you can't use one of your spells. So kind of you have to manage your dice very well. His big special is Earthquake. You get +1 for each time you remove a Geo token from the battlefield, which seems like you'll be doing that very often. Pay 5 and 3 times each enemy on the battlefield suffers 1 unblockable damage and gains 1 stun token. Just straight up be able to spend 5 of those and 3 to be able to do 1 damage to everybody and gain a stun is pretty crazy. Alright, then we have his equipment. So to start with his basic stuff, so he's going to have a magic trick, which is Blizzard. So his psychic spell does range 1 to 6. Crit deals 1 damage to target. Performs a force movement of 2 squares away from your model. He gets the Staff of Wilderness. He has a damage of 1, a range of 1. Crit, gain 2 stun, gains an advantage token. And then he gets El Selecto, which is his ally familiar. An enemy at the same squares as Aetas is considered to have the distracted negative status. Pay 1 to move him up to 3 squares. So as you move him around the board, he's just going to be able to distract enemies, which is going to make them not be able to do things. Distracted specifically says enemy has this token has -1 to their damage and still results, so they can't hit or perform as effectively. So it's kind of this idea is just move him along. And he can't be damaged or hurt, so it's not going to affect you at all there. I do almost wish that his abilities for these, instead of, say, moving as Selecto, let him move any familiar, because that would give you the ability to like make the other familiars even better with him. But that's here nor there. Alright, then we have his blue ability for the Animalist. He has Mask of Souls. For his Pharaoh, so you can use in his owlbear form. At the beginning of the mission, place a soul token on this card. At the beginning of each your activation tokens, you may turn it over. So he gets this extra little mask, which is kind of like a little phantom mask, or a little kind of like butterfly type mask. And so depending on which one you are, either you have -1 Prolium or +1. So it depends on, are you trying to Argo characters or not. It goes with the name Argo Kicks. So that's like a neat little mechanic. He gets his Bark Sting, Armor, Resistance 1, and Feral. When you perform a physical attack, you obtain at least 1 Moon, discard 1 damage from this card. And then he has Moon Globe, which is psychic attacks a target enemy, gain lethal if you have a star. And if we go into his Geomancer class, he has, at the beginning of the mission, place 3 geodes within 3 spaces of you. So he just sets that up. Obsidian Amulet. After you perform any tests, you may remove a single geode from the chosen one and the following effects. Add 1 to the results of the test or gain an Astro token. And then his last thing is the Boots of Fog. Pay 2, you move from 2 dashes while ignoring enemy models and scenic elements. After performing dashes, you must be in available squares. So you can kind of like dash through things, which is very interesting. Alright. Okay, so that was all 4 of our brand new heroes in the stretch goals. So that gives us 8 total heroes in the box. You can play 2 different games with completely different sets of characters or mix and match them all. So the next thing we're going to look at are familiars, is going to kind of help us out. And then companions, which are going to be really cool because they can actually kind of replace heroes if you like, if you're playing with less characters. So let's look at the familiar. We already saw Air Selecto, so let's look at what familiars do. Small command of the hero is purchased during the market to the rest phase by paying in florins indicated on its card. The hero may equip a familiar for the mission exactly as for equipment that takes up no encumbrance slots. Each hero may equip 1 familiar. At the beginning of the mission, place familiar's model on the same square as the hero with their bases in contact. A hero may spend one time to move their familiar up to 3 squares, ignoring any terrain effects such as water, mud. This movement cannot move a familiar into a different height level. It was on when it's placed at the beginning of the mission unless that's fly. As Selecto does have fly, they just left it off the card for some dumb reason. A friend never occupies the square it is in and can never be attacked by an enemy, so they're just in there. If a hero is KO'd, their familiar range on the battlefield performs no action until the hero ceases to be KO'd. If a hero is removed from the battlefield, for example, considered a mission card, their familiar is also removed. When a hero returns to the battlefield, place it back on there. So, yeah, they just kind of come in and they can do various stuff. You can move them around, and then if they're near you, they move with you while you're attached to them. It doesn't say that, but that's just presumed how it should be. So you do get 3 brand new familiars to use, which anyone can pick up. So you can see they do cost a decent amount to add. 7 or 6 total. 7 total. 7 total to add any of them. It's just quite a bit to spend. But since they're adding an extra character, it's going to do some extra stuff, which is really cool. So we have Romolo. This is our little puppy. So here's his little miniature. So, Romolo does, he says, each physical attack against an enemy in the same square as him gains lethal star. Again, this doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's your guy who's controlling the familiar or if it's another hero that's doing it. So basically, you can run up and help other allies. Pay 1 to move them a maximum up to 3 squares. Alright, up next, we're going to get Mide, who's a little bear cub. This is again why I wish the Druid would have just said familiars. That would have been kind of cool if he would have been able to like control any of these guys, or even at least his animalist skill. Because if it just said familiars, it would always apply to Aetas Selecto unless you had another one. The only problem I can see is it said you can only have one of them, and he always comes with him, so you can't exactly remove him and get another guy. So I can kind of understand that. Enemy that begins their activation in the same spaces immediately gains a bleeding token. So one guy does extra crit added. This guy does extra bleeding damage every turn. And then the last one is Fracadalia, who's our little boar. Now, there are familiars in Black Rose Wars as well. I honestly wish they would have made crossover cards for this game. That would have been really cool to be able to add those guys as familiars in this game. They're like little dragons and Cerberuses and stuff, which might not make as much canonical sense, but it still would have been really cool. But yeah, so what this guy does is, end of the movement, score act by enemy, roll 1 die. If they obtain success, they stun the enemy. So yeah, 1 stun, little basic effects. Nothing that's like going to be game changing. But if you're paying 7, basically just move these guys into the area at the enemy. And then, yeah, they're going to add some extra bonus effects to them, which could disrupt them just enough to let you win the game. Alright, then the last thing we want to look at are companion cards. So, companions are... I'll find the page for them. Alright, so companions are going to be these big oversized cards. They're going to represent our 4 core heroes, our 4 stretch goal heroes, and then there's actually 1 brand new character. And then there are some that can be available, obtained from like promos and stuff like that as well. Represent simpler versions of heroes. When the group of players is fewer than 4 is recommended but not essential to use companion version of each hero not directly controlled by a player. So basically, when I'm playing a 2-player game, I could add 2 companions instead of having to try and manage 2 full characters. So on the card there, I'm going to zoom back out just a bit here. They're going to have name of the companion, obviously. Characteristics are going to match the ones on their character card. Skills available to the companion at the corresponding cost. So you have to pay for each thing every time you're using them. Not during the match when you're using them, but like when you hire them. So if you pay 1, you can only get insult. If you pay a total of 6, you could have all 6. Now, comparing that to, like, the 7 cost for a familiar, definitely a lot nicer for the cost-wise. But the difference is whether they can be defeated or not. Plus, you have to keep paying for these guys. In the bottom there, we'll have equipment, so they'll have the weapon and armor, and usually some other special thing, special skills, and they have keywords at the bottom that they might have as well. The companion follows these rules. Companion can be hired at the rest space if a hero visits the barracks. There are no limit to the number of companions a hero can hire, but the total number of heroes and companions can never exceed more than 4. No companion, the same name as a hero, can be used in the mission. So if I'm playing as Valerio, I can't hire him as well. Hiring a companion does not cost florins, but you may spend florins to acquire 1 or more of the 3 skills on their card. Any skill acquired by the companion can be used in the mission. 3 equipment on the companion card can always be used without the need to purchase them. So again, if I'm purchasing them, I can basically hire them, right? And they can come in, they have their basic stats, they have their couple of skills. If I want to give them their equipment, if I want to give them the skills, I have to pay for it. The companions are considered for all intents and purposes a hero. The only exception is they never draw injury cards. Companions' actions are chosen and performed by the players. They are not considered under the control of any player or hero. During a rest space, companions can visit the shops they were in as if they were heroes. Companions can also visit the barracks, try other companions, or even themselves. But can not visit the church, battle your mentors, because they don't have levels or healing stuff. Or need to reset their skills. A companion is part of the party until the end of the rest space while on the one they were hired in. Therefore, it's possible for a companion to play more than one mission. So if they leave a mission and it doesn't say go to the rest space or goes right to another mission, they stay on. Each rest space, you can hire a new companion or rehire those currently in use. In this case, each time you hire a companion, you have to pay for the skill again if you wish to acquire them. If you are not forced to purchase the same skills, you may change their configuration according to your need or availability. Companions are used to correspond heroes model and activation token. Both these components are placed on the battlefield and hard them as if they're a regular hero. So very cool. Alright, so the first companion we want to look at is Scrapiante. So he's a extra character that's not available anywhere else. I'm wondering if he was like designed like maybe like an additional stretch goal character they got him, or if they just wanted to include a brand new companion, because that way if you're playing with the 4 like core characters of 4 other characters, you don't have, like, if you're playing with just the 4 core characters and he was included in here, you'd have at least 1 companion. Although the rules do state, they don't really state, but they kind of gloss over it. There are, in the stretch goal stuff, there are nightmare and nightmare cards which make the game harder for if you're playing with more characters. So if you are playing with under 4 characters, use companions to replace them so you have a team of 4. But if you're already playing 4 people and you want to add 5 or 6 to add to the companions, it's recommended you jump up into the nightmare mode. Otherwise, it might become too easy. But hey, it's your game. If you like not have to have a super hard challenge, then don't do that. Yeah, so this character kind of mixes. So if we were talking about our classes, because each character is just like a dumbed down version of the other guy. So he's a big giant brute, so obviously he's a fighter type character. But I think he kind of fits more into like the like clericy paladin type role, because he has kind of like healing abilities. So I think if he was a full character, he would have been somewhere in that role, and he would have had fighter / like white mage abilities. Yeah, so here are stat wise. There's lots of physical attack with 5. His skills are, if you choose to buy them, are bouncer. So pay 2 time for 1 rank 1 or rank 2 enemies adjacent to your screen must perform a force movement of 3 squares and then they gain a stun. You're just going to slam guys across the field. This big giant wooden stick. You can get brute each time performing an attack. You may reroll a dice for each enemy adjacent to you. And trampling charge. Pay 5. You may perform 5 dashes without suffering a reaction. You may move to a square with an adjacent enemy. That enemy gains a stunned token. So yeah, basically just a way to get across the field quick, but at least you just stun a guy if he gets him into battle faster. His weapons are the club. Physical 3 cost with 1, but it does stun and lethal if you have a stun. His priest equipment, which is where we get into where he could have been a cleric type character, or maybe even a paladin type idea. Says pay 3, roll 2 dice. For each successive hero within 4 of you, discards 1 damage. So he can heal from a distance. Again, it would be a great thing if you're playing the game, throw an extra additional healer in there. And Brawl trophies. At the beginning of your activation, an enemy adjacent you gains a distracted token. So, like, if they made him a full character, he would have had these as his starting equipment, most likely, same stat line, and then he would have had 3 of his skills. And usually, every character has, 6 skills? So he would have had two or three other skills on there, plus he doesn't have his ultimate. So it does make him a little bit weaker. The only thing I didn't directly find, which I would subject to how you're going to play it, they say you have to keep rehiring companions. I would say, though, if you're playing a 4-player game, you just take these guys, and these are being like your 3rd or 4th player, right? And you're playing a two people, 2 or 3 people. I wouldn't pay for these. They just like, this is my additional character. So it just gives you an idea of having them. They're not going to have as many stats and all the other stuff. They're not going to be able to upgrade like everybody else. But it at least makes it, because some people might not want to have to try and manage 2 different characters at the same time. There's a lot of skills they have to keep track of and all this. And what they want to do each turn. Here it's a lot simpler. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and hop into our main characters. We have Valero. So he has Insult, pay 1, gain 1 Trillium. He uses skill as a maximum once per activation. Charge, pay 1 to upgrade. You may choose a target of your attack, enemy within 4 space. You do gain 3 dashes. You must usually become adjacent to the target. And Guard, reaction 2, and you gain a negative status token. You instead do not gain that token. His weapon is a sword, which has crit for tackle. He has a leather armor. Ignore the first damage suffered during the mission, and a shield. At the beginning of your activation, you can already have one, gain a shielded token. For Viencio, he has Purify, Prayer. Pay 2, perform a psychic test. Choose a hero, including with a number of squares equal to 3 plus the number of successes that hero discards a negative status token. Astrology, pay 2, perform a psychic test. Choose a success for each hero within 4 space of you. Chosen hero gains an astral token. And Righteous Step, for 0, choose a model against you. Swap your model's positions. If you do your chosen model, the movements do not cause reaction. You can use the skill maximum once per activation. So it's kind of cool. So you can swap guys around. His sensor weapon does 0 to 1 range. Has crit with stun and possibly burn. Relic is for an artifact. Pay 2 time to gain a blessed token. And Churigan's bag item. Pay 2 to perform a psychic test for each. Success, a hero within 3 spaces, you discards 1 damage. Just want to compare that to his. So he has to pay 3 to roll 2 dice. Each space within 4 gets to discard 1. Where his is pay 2 to perform a psychic test. For each success within 3, you discard 1. So he has to perform a test. Roll 3 for each successive hero within 4. So yeah, a little bit. So I think it's a little bit better. I think it's supposed to perform a psychic test as well. But yeah, so it's kind of interesting to have a little bit different stuff there. We have Sophia, who's our rogue character. Take aim. Pay 2 time to gain an advantage token, or pay 3 to gain an advantage and lucky token. Flank. When you perform an attack on an enemy adjacent to another hero, roll 1 more die coming up from behind them. And aim shot. Upgrade. Pay 1 to upgrade. Attack gains lethal. She's our throwing knives, which have a range of 1 to 4. Crit gains lethal. Grappling hook, just climb 1 and jump 1. And hood. The sight value of enemies is being 1 less against you. And then we get Rebecca. Focus, she has pay 1, gain a lucky token. Pyromancy, passive, arcane arrow, gains crit if the spell inflicts at least 1 damage, gains a burned token. And magic steps, arcane arrow gains crit once you resolve The effects of the spell, you gain 2 dashes. And then her arcane arrows has range of 1 to 6. Says for crit, deal 2 damage for each moon and inflict 1 damage. Plus 1 damage for each moon. Sorry, does 2 damage and for each moon inflict additional damage. And if you have pyromancy and magic step, you can also dash and burn them. She also has a dagger in case you're near her, so she has a range of 1, do not cause reaction attacks, and energy shard. Pay 2 to gain an advantage token. Yes, it's really neat. So again, like, you're just playing with them normally, but if you're bringing them in as a companion, you can decide, like, do I want to spend 5 and get all of these, or do I just want to worry about having the burn effect? Do I even not want any of them? Maybe I just want the extra magic spells in here. I don't care about the rest. Alright, for our stretch goal characters, we have Altair, who has Leap of Faith. Gain Jump 2, Climb 1. Once per activation, you may go up or down at least 1 height level, you gain an advantage token. Assassin Strike, pay 2 upgrade. If the target of this attack does not have damage, the attack gains crit for each moon or each sun, inflicting additional damage. And Silent Moon, do not cause reaction attacks. His equipment are sword for his weapon. Crit does tackle. The Robe of the Creed, pay 1 to reduce your armor by your Perillium by 1. You use maximum once per effect. And then Hidden Blade, pay 4, choose a rank 2 or 1 enemy adjacent. If by suffering 2 damage the enemy is defeated, inflict 2 unblockable damage to that enemy. So it's kind of neat because it works different than its other one where you just normally can just stab guys. This one instead you can pay 4 to basically finish them off. Gregoro, who has Mo, plus 1 upgrade, taking 1 additional die for the test of this attack. Watch for the stars. Passive at the beginning of your activation, choose a hero including you within 3 spaces gains an Astro token. Alchemy, pay 2, choose a hero including you with 3 range. Perform your test, for psychic test. For each success, the chosen hero discards a health or a damage. If you discard an Astro token, the target can also discard a status token. He has a Scythe, which has a range of 1 to 2, and crit does bleed. Alchemic Tools, pay 1 to discard 2 reagents to draw 2 reagents from your deck, or pay 1 to discard 2 reagents to place a positive status token on your weapon. And then Alchemic Sensor, when enemy within 2 range of you is defeated, add reagent cards from your loot. So this is kind of neat because he doesn't. They're not going to have you bring along his extra deck, or his extra alchemy card and have to reference that and do stuff. The kept it simple, but it does kind of give you some of the idea of what you can do with that, which is really neat. Fatima, who has Spartan Kick, pay 1, enemy adjacent if possible, and lose 1 square away from you in a straight line. Take aim, begin your activation, gain a lucky token, and rush shot. Each of your attacks gains crit, gain 1 dash. She has her short bow, which does 2 to 6, and crit has lethal for a star. She has her odd item, pay 2, a hero within 4 spaces, including you gains a fate token. So she still does use her fate token or her fate dice, which is, I think, a really cool idea. Because it's just really easy to put a token on a guy like any other upgraded token. And then she has her leather bodicee. Fatima ignores the first damage suffered during a mission. And then our last guy for this set is Oragox, or Agroix. Petrified, reaction 1. When you perform a defense test against a physical attack, roll 1 additional die. Mighty Strike, plus 1 upgrade. For each sun you may reroll. His not produce success, you must keep the new result. And Steps of Gaia. Spend 2 if Aetas Selecto is available square with you. 4 spaces on the same height level, you may swap positions. So it does still use Familiar. He has Staff of the Wilderness, which has a range of 1, but if you get 2 suns, you gain an advantage token. For Aetas Selecto as a Familiar, has Fly and Familiar. Pay 1 to move him up to 3 spaces, and may assign a distracted token to an enemy in the same square as it. So although it does use him, it's not going to have his card sitting out doing what his card does. He has his own special ability. And then Blizzard Magic Trick has a psychic attack that's up to 1 to 6, crit 1 damage. The target performs force movement of your square 2 away from you. So it's really neat about all these familiars because they're, supposed to be a simplified version. They have lots of the same names and very similar abilities to what their full characters are, but they don't have every single version. And then it's also neat because they kind of um they're willing to maybe take some of the skills from like one of the upgraded classes a little bit. But that'd be kind of neat though if like they even made just like if they went a step further and been like this is Aerograx the Druid, and then you could switch him to Aerograx the Animalist or Aerograx the um Geomancer, and then have him use his other abilities. So that'd be kind of a neat idea if they advanced it. So like, hey, once if your characters in your group have advanced classes, you can advance these up to one of the other ones as well, just giving you different abilities. Because again, their stat lines don't change, um, and they're but you could give them some of the new abilities and stuff. That'd be kind of a neat idea. The only downside is because an advanced class normally has access to the first 6 skills plus the new 6 skills as you learn them, and these guys wouldn't. But it would be a neat way to like just give them some different abilities, to perform some different ideas. Again, there are also some characters are gonna add through expansions, or hopefully any new characters that come out also get their companion cards as well as promo cards. Um, I did say in one of the other videos talking about this, I really would love if they made a bunch of the guys from Black Rose Wars. That's one of the promo characters. Like lots of them, because it's the same era. Even like Requiem and even potentially Blood. All the games are in the exact same era. All the other games from the Chronicle series take place over different times. These are all the exact same time frame. Like the Renaissance era. It'd be kind of neat if they had more cards that like let you bring those guys in just to do a couple of things. Alright, but that's what we have for Novi at this Renaissance video 4. Check out next video where we're going to go over the equipment card and then keep checking out to see the enemies, the campaign stuff, scenic elements, all that fun stuff. See you guys later. Bye.